salt and tar fills the air. A convoy moves steadily across the waters. Broad merchant ships, their bellies heavy with silver and ivory, escorted by sleek galleys bristling with bronze rams. At the prow, a captain scans the horizon, watching for storms or pirates, while below deck, sailors shift amphorae of oil, grain, and wine into place. This is not Rome. This is not Greece. This is Carthage, a city whose wealth and power were carried not on the backs of armies, but on the keels of ships. Welcome back to History of Carthage. If you're enjoying this series and want to journey deeper into the rise and fall of one of the ancient world's greatest empires, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and it ensures you won't miss the next chapter of this incredible story. Today, we follow Carthage's ships out of their famous harbors and into the wider Mediterranean. We will trace the trade routes that stitched together 3 continents, routes that brought Carthage unimaginable wealth, and, in time, deadly rivals. Let us begin in Africa, Carthage's own homeland. The fertile lands around modern Tunisia produced grain, olives, and figs in abundance. These crops fed the city itself, but they also filled the holds of merchant ships bound for foreign markets. But beyond the farms lay the desert, and across that desert came riches even more precious. Caravans of camels trudged northward, laden with ivory tusks, bars of gold, salt, and slaves. Weeks of hardship across blistering sands ended at the coast, where merchants waited to load these treasures aboard ships. Picture the scene. A caravan arrives at dawn, the camels weary, their drivers coated in dust. Tusks of ivory gleam pale against the desert sun, sacks of salt are heaped in piles, and bars of gold glint as they are unloaded. A Carthaginian merchant, dressed in fine linen, inspects the goods with a keen eye. He knows these will soon cross the sea, to Sicily, to Greece, perhaps even to Egypt. Africa was not just Carthage's foundation. It was a treasure house that supplied the luxuries of the world. From Africa, the Carthaginian fleets sailed north to Sicily. This island was the breadbasket of the central Mediterranean. Its volcanic soil produced grain in abundance, and its ports lay at the very crossroads of sea routes. But Sicily was more than farmland. It was also a battleground. Greek colonies dotted its coastlines, and Carthage and Greece vied for control. For centuries, Sicily was both a source of Carthaginian wealth and a source of constant war. Yet trade endured through conflict. Sicilian grain fed the Carthaginian people, and from the harbors of Motia, Panormus, and Lilybaeum, Carthage projected its influence across the island. Beyond Sicily lay Sardinia and Corsica. These rugged islands were rich in resources. Sardinia offered copper, lead, and silver, while Corsica provided valuable timber and pitch for shipbuilding. Carthage established colonies and trading stations on both, securing their wealth and expanding its reach deeper into the western Mediterranean. And then there was Iberia, modern Spain, and Portugal. Here lay Carthage's richest prize. Its silver mines were legendary. Ancient writers recorded that Iberia supplied Carthage with staggering amounts of bullion, enough to fund its armies, its fleets, and its expansion. But Iberia was not only silver. It was also a hub of salted fish, textiles, and dyes. Carthaginian merchants turned Iberia into a second homeland, building settlements, forging alliances, and reaping its wealth. By the 3rd century BCE, Iberia was the beating heart of Carthage's prosperity. To sail westward from Iberia meant venturing beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the straits we call Gibraltar. Beyond them lay the Atlantic, a place of mystery and fear. Yet Carthaginian ships dared it. They hugged the coasts, trading with distant peoples. Some brought back tin, an essential ingredient for bronze, from as far as Brittany or Cornwall. Others brought back tales of endless seas and strange lands. These voyages pushed the limits of ancient navigation, but they also brought Carthage profits no rival could match. Imagine such a voyage, a Carthaginian gaulos, heavy and slow, pushing west into the open ocean. The waves are higher, the wind stronger, and the sailors whisper prayers to Tanit and Baal Hamon. At night, they watch unfamiliar stars rise over the horizon. They barter with tribes in distant lands, returning with tin and amber, their minds filled with tales of wild oceans and foreign gods. The Atlantic was a terrifying place, but to Carthage, even fear could be turned into profit. Trade routes also stretched eastward. Carthage maintained ties with Egypt, Cyrene, and the Levant. From Egypt came papyrus, glass, and luxury goods. From Cyrene, the famous silphium plant, prized for medicine and spice. From the Levant came fine textiles, perfumes, and art. Though rivals on the battlefield, Greek merchants and Carthaginian merchants often traded in the same ports. Commerce, after all, cared little for politics. When we step back and look at the whole web, the sheer scale of Carthage's trade becomes clear. From Africa, ivory, gold, slaves, and grain. From Sicily, food in abundance. From Sardinia, metals. From Iberia, silver, fish, and dyes. From the Atlantic, tin. From the east, papyrus, perfumes, and silphium. Each voyage tied Carthage tighter into the fabric of the ancient world. But Carthage was not just a collector. It was a distributor. Goods from 3 continents converged in its harbors, and from there they spread outward again. A Greek in Syracuse could buy African ivory without ever leaving Sicily. An Egyptian in Alexandria might hold Iberian silver in his hand, thanks to Carthaginian middlemen. Carthage was the great hub, the warehouse of the West, the beating heart of Mediterranean trade. Colonies and trading stations secured this network. Small but fortified, they dotted the coasts of Africa, Iberia, and the islands. Each was a foothold, a base for merchants and sailors, a node in a web that stretched across thousands of miles. Together, they created a chain of influence that no rival could easily break. And at the center of it all was the Kothon, Carthage's harbor system. Merchantmen streamed in and out, unloading goods into warehouses, reloading them for re-export. The circular military harbor guarded them, its galleys ready to strike down pirates or rivals. Here, in the bustle of the docks, the shouting of sailors, the clatter of amphorae, and the stink of fish and spices, the true power of Carthage was visible. It was not just a city, it was a marketplace of the world. By the 5th century BCE, Carthage had become the master of Western Mediterranean trade. Its ships carried wealth no other power could rival. Its merchants spoke in many tongues. Its gods received prayers from every coast, and its rivals, jealous, envious, fearful, began to take notice. But every network of wealth creates its shadows. Rivals plotted, pirates prowled, and on the horizon a new power, Rome, stirred restlessly, its eyes turning toward the same seas that Carthage ruled. If the map of Carthage's trade routes dazzles us with its reach, the lived reality of those who sailed and traded along them is even more revealing. Picture the harbor of Carthage at midday. The sun beats down on the water, reflecting off the bronze fittings of ships and the whitewashed walls of warehouses. A merchant ship from Sardinia has just arrived, its hull packed with copper and lead. Dock workers swarm the vessel, shouting as they roll amphorae down wooden ramps. Nearby, a sleek galley lies moored, its marines keeping watch in case of trouble. A caravan from the desert has entered through the city gates, its camels laden with ivory and salt. The market fills with the cries of hawkers. Grain from Sicily, silver from Iberia, papyrus from Egypt. The smells of roasted meat and exotic spices mingle with the stink of fish. This was Carthage at its height, a city alive with the rhythms of global commerce. For sailors, these routes meant both opportunity and danger. A voyage to Sardinia might be short and relatively safe, but sailing beyond Gibraltar into the Atlantic was a venture into the unknown. Storms could blow ships off course, pirates could descend from hidden coves, and strange peoples could turn hostile. Every journey was a gamble, and yet the rewards were so immense that men were willing to risk everything. Consider the story of a young sailor from Carthage, perhaps a farmer's son drawn by the promise of profit. He signs unto a merchant voyage to Iberia. Weeks later, he is unloading silver ingots in the harbor, his pockets heavy with coin. Perhaps he invests in his own share of the next voyage, climbing from laborer to trader. This upward mobility was one of Carthage's strengths. Wealth was not confined to warriors. Merchants could rise to prominence, and trade could elevate families. In a city built on commerce, success at sea meant power at home. But Carthage's dependence on trade also shaped its politics. Unlike Rome, where farmers and soldiers were the backbone of society, Carthage looked to merchants and ship owners. Its aristocracy was filled with men who made their fortunes not on the battlefield, but in the marketplace. This gave Carthage a unique character, pragmatic, outward-looking, focused on profit. Diplomacy was conducted with contracts and treaties as much as with swords, yet this pragmatism had limits. Trade routes had to be protected. Convoys required escorts. Colonies needed defense. Every gain in wealth demanded an investment in arms. Carthage's fleets were never idle. They patrolled seas, deterred pirates, and fought rivals. Sicily, especially, became the stage on which trade turned into conflict. Greek colonies there bristled at Carthaginian dominance, and war was never far from commerce. And then came Rome. At first, Rome was little more than a trading partner, a landlocked city-state interested in treaties and boundaries. But as it expanded into southern Italy, it drew closer to Sicily, Carthage's lifeline. The collision was inevitable. Rome wanted Sicily for its grain. Carthage needed Sicily to survive. The trade routes that had made Carthage rich were the very ones that now drew it into war. By the outbreak of the First Punic War in 264 BCE, Carthage's trade network had become both its strength and its weakness. It could fund vast armies and fleets, but it also gave Rome a target. Sever the routes, cut the lifelines, and Carthage would bleed. The war would prove this strategy correct. But before we leap ahead into the clash of empires, let us pause to appreciate what Carthage achieved. For centuries, it was not Rome, but Carthage that connected the world. Think again of the map, Africa, rich with ivory and gold, tied by caravans to Carthage's ports. Sicily, Sardinia, and Corsica, supplying grain, metals, and timber. Iberia, pouring silver into Carthage's coffers. The Atlantic, mysterious and wild, yielding tin and amber. The East, with its papyrus, perfumes, and luxuries. All of these threads converged on Carthage, weaving it into the greatest trading power of its age. The influence of this trade stretched far beyond wealth. Carthaginian goods traveled into Greek homes, Roman temples, and Egyptian markets. In return, foreign ideas, art, and gods seeped into Carthage. The city was cosmopolitan, its culture a blend of African, Phoenician, Greek, and Iberian influences. Trade was not just an exchange of goods, but an exchange of worlds. Yet this golden age was fragile. For Carthage, prosperity always came with risk. A storm could wreck a fleet. A revolt in Iberia could cut silver supplies. A Roman blockade could starve the city of Sicilian grain. Wealth built on trade is dynamic, but it is also precarious. Carthage, more than any other ancient power, lived by the sea and would one day die by it. As the sun sets on our journey, imagine again the harbors of Carthage. Hundreds of ships sway gently in the water, their masts rising like a forest of wood and rope. Warehouses groan with grain and silver, the air heavy with the scent of spices and sweat. Merchants haggle, sailors rest, children run through alleys carrying scraps of cloth or fish. It is a city alive, a city rich, a city powerful. This was Carthage at its height, not yet at war with Rome, not yet brought low by fire, but a queen of commerce, ruling not by the sword, but by the sail. This was episode 7 of History of Carthage. In our next episode, we will travel to Iberia, to the glittering silver mines that poured untold wealth into Carthage's coffers. We will see how this river of precious metal transformed Carthage from a prosperous city into a true Mediterranean superpower, and how it set the stage for wars that would decide the fate of the ancient world. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to History of Carthage. It helps us keep bringing you these epic journeys into the past, and until next time, may your sails always carry you to fortune.